What is going on, Cowboys Nation? This is Victor, and I am going to be real with you today. This might be one of the most important decisions the Dallas Cowboys front office makes all offseason because we are talking about the future of this offense. We are talking about identity. We are talking about whether this team is actually building something sustainable or just resetting again. Let me set the stage for you. Last season, we finally saw a true WR1 emerge in Dallas, a young, explosive physical receiver who went out there and put up 93 catches for 1,429 yards and 9 touchdowns in a full 17-game season. That is not potential anymore. That is production. That is star-level output. That is the kind of player you build around. But here is the problem. The latest reports are saying his trade value might not be what we thought. We are talking about possibly getting just a second-round pick and maybe a late-round swap in return. Let me ask you something, Cowboys Nation. Does that sound like fair value for a 24-year-old receiver who just had a breakout season like that? Or does that sound like a massive mistake waiting to happen? Because if Dallas does not believe they can lock him into a long-term deal, we could actually see them move on. And that changes everything about this offense. Now, at the same time, and this is where things get really interesting, the Cowboys might already be preparing a backup plan. There is a strong prediction out there that Dallas could let their current 1,000-yard running back walk and replace him with a dynamic, versatile playmaker from another team. We are talking about a guy who has posted 3 1,000-yard seasons in his first 4 years, who can run between the tackles and catch out of the backfield and fit perfectly into Brian Schottenheimer's offensive system, a player projected to cost around $13 million, a move that would not just replace production, but could actually make this offense more explosive. So now we have got a real debate on our hands. Do you pay your rising star wide receiver and lock in your passing game for the future? Or do you risk losing him and try to reshape the offense through the run game and versatility? And what happens to Dak Prescott if this team starts shifting pieces around him again? Because let us be honest, consistency has been one of the biggest problems for this team. And every time we feel like we are building something real, something changes. Before we go any further, hit that like button if you believe the Cowboys need to keep their stars. And subscribe to Dallas Cowboys today, but only if you are a real fan and you believe we are hitting that 14,000 subscriber mark and making a serious Super Bowl push next season. All right, Cowboys Nation, I need you locked in for this one because this is not just another offseason rumor. This could be a franchise-defining decision. We are talking about a young star, a breakout playmaker, a guy who just had a monster season in Dallas. And now there is real uncertainty about his future. The Dallas Cowboys are heading into the 2026 offseason with a big decision to make. George Pickens is set to hit free agency, and after what he just did last season, this is not a normal contract situation. Let us talk numbers. 93 receptions, 1,429 yards, 9 touchdowns, played all 17 games. That is not just good. That is WR1 production in the NFL. That is the kind of season teams build entire offenses around. Here's where things get tricky and why every Cowboys fan should care. If Dallas cannot reach a long-term deal, there is a possibility they could trade him. But according to League Insight, his trade value might only be a second-round pick plus a late-round pick swap. Let me say that again. You are telling me a 24-year-old receiver coming off a 1,400-plus yard season is only worth a second-round pick? That should make every Cowboys fan uncomfortable. This is a huge red flag because this is exactly how teams lose elite talent. You hesitate, you overthink, you try to manage value, and suddenly your best young weapon is gone. We have seen this story before, Cowboys Nation, and we do not want to live it again. Now let us talk logic. The most likely move should be the franchise tag. And honestly, that is the right move. Why? Because it keeps Pickens in Dallas for 2026. It buys time for a long-term deal. It prevents losing him for nothing. This is basic roster management. You do not let a 24-year-old star walk out the door. Let us go deeper on what Pickens means to this offense. He is not just putting up numbers. He changed the entire offense. He stretches the field. He wins contested catches. He brings attitude and swagger. He gives Dak a true go-to target. And let us not forget, the Cowboys offense was already top 5 in points per game at 27.7. Now imagine removing your most explosive receiver from that equation. That is not retooling. That is regression. I am going to say it straight up. If the Cowboys trade Pickens for a second-round pick, that is a mistake. A big one. You do not trade proven production for potential. You do not trade a rising star for a lottery ticket, especially when this team is trying to win now. And here is where it gets even more interesting. After the situation with Micah Parsons, this front office needs to get this right. They struggled to lock up a generational defensive talent. Now they have a second chance with a young offensive star. You cannot fumble this again. Cowboys Nation, let me ask you directly. Would you pay George Pickens long-term, or would you consider trading him for draft capital? And be honest, no fence-sitting, because this decision will shape the future of this team. George Pickens is not just another player. He is young, he is productive, he is still improving. Those are the guys you build around, not the ones you trade away. If Dallas wants to get back to being a true contender, this is the kind of decision that defines that path. Now, Cowboys Nation, this next part could completely change the identity of our offense in 2026. We are talking about a 1,200-yard running back coming off a career year, possibly walking away. And in his place, a dynamic, explosive playmaker who could take this offense to another level. But here is the real question. Are the Cowboys about to upgrade or make a risky mistake? Here is the situation. The Dallas Cowboys have a major decision to make at running back. Javonte Williams is heading into free agency, and let us be real, he just had a breakout season. 211 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns, 4.8 yards per carry. That is elite production. That is consistency. That is a guy who carried the load week in and week out. But now, there is a real possibility Dallas lets him walk and replaces him with Jacksonville Jaguars star Travis Etienne. Let us talk about Etienne, because if you have been watching him, you know exactly what he brings. 3 seasons with 1,000-plus rushing yards. Reliable. Missed just 2 games in his career. A true dual-threat weapon. In 2025 alone, he had 7 rushing touchdowns and 6 receiving touchdowns. That is the key right there. Etienne does not just run the ball. He adds a whole new dimension to the offense. He can line up in the backfield, split out wide, catch passes in space, turn short plays into big gains. This is where it gets interesting for Brian Schottenheimer's system. His offense thrives on versatility and mismatches. Running backs who can catch are invaluable in his scheme, and Etienne is built for exactly that. That kind of versatility takes pressure off Dak Prescott. And after what we saw last season, Dallas needs players who can create their own explosive plays. But wait, this is where I push back a little, because Cowboys Nation, let us not forget Javonte Williams just proved himself in this system. He was physical, he was efficient, he was reliable, and most importantly, he helped power an offense that scored 27.7 points per game, top 5 in the NFL. So the question becomes, why fix something that is not broken? Let me break down the comparison honestly. Keeping Javonte Williams gives you someone proven in Dallas, already productive, no adjustment period needed. He knows the system, and the system works with him. Signing Travis Etienne gives you someone more explosive with better receiving ability and a higher ceiling. He creates mismatches that Javonte simply cannot create in the passing game. So what is the move? It comes down to floor versus ceiling. Consistency versus explosion. Now, here is the business side. Etienne is projected to sign a 2-year deal worth about $13 million. That is around $6.5 million per year. That is actually very reasonable for a running back of his caliber, especially when the Cowboys are sitting on about $29 million in cap space. So financially, this deal makes sense. It would not break the bank, and it would add a significant weapon to the offense. All right, here is where I stand if you are asking me. I lean slightly toward Travis Etienne, and here is why. This team does not just need to be good. It needs to be dangerous. It needs explosiveness. It needs players who can flip a game in one play, and Etienne gives you that. But letting Javonte walk after a season like that is a gamble. No question about it. He earned his spot in this offense, and he proved he can be the guy. Cowboys Nation, I need your take on this. This is a big debate. Who are you keeping? Javonte Williams or Travis Etienne? Do you want consistency or explosiveness? The Cowboys are at a crossroads. This is not just about a running back. This is about offensive identity. This is about play style. This is about how we compete in 2026 and beyond. Now, let me bring both decisions together because that is really what this offseason is about. The Cowboys have to figure out who they want to be as an offense. If they keep Pickens and sign Etienne, you have an explosive passing attack with a versatile running game. That is a dangerous combination. If they trade Pickens and keep Williams, you are betting on the run game and hoping someone else emerges as a receiver. That is a much riskier path. If they keep both Pickens and Williams, you are running it back with the same core that produced a top 5 offense. There is nothing wrong with continuity when it works. My recommendation? Keep Pickens at all costs. Use the franchise tag if you have to. Then make the best decision at running back based on price and fit. You do not let a 24-year-old star receiver walk for a second-round pick. That is how you set a franchise back years. The running back position can be addressed in multiple ways. The receiver position with a player like Pickens is much harder to replace. This offseason is about building something sustainable. Not just making moves for the sake of making moves. The Cowboys have a chance to lock in a core that can compete for years. Like the video, if you believe the Cowboys need to keep their stars. Subscribe to Dallas Cowboys today. Help us hit 14K subscribers. I am Victor, and Cowboys Nation this offseason is heating up fast.